Clemson gets yet another commitment from a four-star player who was in Michigan and Penn State's back door, but we'll get to that in just a second. Hey, I'm Brian Knight. I am not Bobby Durkins, at least not right here. Not for the moment, maybe later. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications and hit the little bell if you'd like. So Clemson receives a commit from 6'7", 250-pound Darien Mayo. Now, Darien Mayo plays, I said they were in Michigan's backdoor, but he's actually in Maryland. And Michigan was vying for him, Ohio State, USC, and he has committed to Clemson. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal considering you had those three schools vying for him. And let's just be honest with ourselves. Until probably the past 6 months, and when I say the past 6 months, that includes hiring Garrett Riley, receiving the commitments that they've already received, and just getting a little more buzz about them. Clemson has not had the sexiness in college football like, say, Ohio State and Michigan and USC. I know for my Tiger fans, I know I just lost some of you. They're like, what are you talking about? You know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Once again, that's for some of you cult fans out there. You're not even fans. You're cult members. You're worshiping Dabo Swinney to the point that you forgot that there's other schools outside of Clemson. And if you're a young man that is 6'7", 250 pounds, you're an edge rusher and you have Michigan, USC, and Ohio State knocking at your door. Unfortunately for us Clemson fans, it's maybe a better place to land of recent. But the changes that have been made at Clemson in the past 6 months, I believe has changed that. And we're getting back to the dominance that we once had. Now, for my fellow pessimists out there, is our pessimistic attempt and thought and feeling of, oh no, don't you remember the whole IMG thing? Don't you remember when Foreman was going to sign? Don't you remember when Flo was going to sign? Yeah, I do. And no, the ink is not dried on the paper to play for us. He can still decommit. Sammy Brown can decommit. Wesco could decommit right now. They could wait till the very moment they're supposed to sign their letter of intent and change. And right now there's a lot of concern because Georgia's big number one recruit, number one quarterback coming out of Arizona. What's his name? And y'all please forgive me for mispronouncing his last name, but it's like Dylan Rayola or something like that. I haven't heard the proper pronunciation for his name. All that matters is that he is who he is. And now he has transferred from Arizona. He has now moved to Buford, Georgia. And for anybody who knows Metro Atlanta football, Parker Henderson would definitely know because he lives in Metro Atlanta. The truth is, he's going to Buford. Buford is amazing. Sorry, y'all, if I seem a little scattered, I'm reading comments. I've got to shut up and talk. Stop reading. But the truth is that area of football is very close to the University of Georgia. That's why Georgia fans were always mad that Clemson came in and took Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson because they were so close to the University of Georgia. It was kind of a joke that Clemson came in and took these guys. Well, Dylan Rayola, or whatever his name is, we'll just call him Dylan R., the great recruit out of Arizona. who's committed to Georgia. He's now going to play for Buford High School, and that's going to be incredible. That will be incredible for that high school. It'll be great for Georgia to have him in their back door, but a lot of people are getting concerned that Dylan, he's going to be playing football with two of Clemson's top recruits that they're going after. Now, one of them's heavily leaning towards Georgia. One of them's heavily leaning towards Ohio State, but Clemson's still in the mix. What they're afraid of is not only is Dylan going to build a relationship with them and definitely ensure that Clemson has no chance with them, but that he's going to use the 27-mile difference between Buford and Jefferson County High School, to try to get in Sammy Brown's head and say, hey, dude, all-star cast, man, we'd love to have you, you know? So Clemson fans are worried about that. Folks, that is a legitimate concern. That is true. But you have to get ahead of the curve. These coaches are paid a lot of money to ensure that this doesn't happen. These coaches are paid a lot of money to ensure that Sammy Brown ends up wearing orange and white, and that Wesco is wearing orange and white. Not a chance, Midland's Directory. I know you're playing there. You know what hat I'm wearing right now, and that Bud Light hat, unfortunately, I've had to put it up because of stuff. But the truth is that you have to get ahead of the curve. You have to continue to recruit these players. You can't believe that, oh, we've arrived. We have the recruits. We have these players in our back pocket, which, trust me, I don't believe for 1 second that Dabo Swinney and his team believes that. I don't believe that. I believe that they're going after these players. They're continuing the relationships. They're continuing the interactions. They're continuing to do. Yeah, Parker. Great play on words. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the Henderson sisters. I wonder where your sister's at right now. Talking about your brother. But let's talk about the commit from today. It just happened over the past few hours. Darien Mayo, as I said, he's out of Maryland, of Our Lady of Good Counsel, committed to Clemson for the 2024 recruiting year. 6'7", 250 pounds, edge, defensive end. Having that 6'7" yet very athletic 250 pounds, you got to remember, I'm barely 5'9", so if I weighed 250 pounds, I would look ridiculous, most likely. I'd either be severely overweight or probably on steroids if I was muscular. I mean, 250 pounds on me just would not look right at barely 5'9". You get a guy at 6 feet tall at 250 pounds. He's still kind of, unless he had those other two things that I just laid out, either severely obese or he's probably on steroids. But once you start getting around 6'2", 250 pounds is a little easier to carry. You can carry it healthy. It's going to be a push. You get to 6'3", 6'4", okay, 250 pounds, you probably look, you don't look, out of the ordinary. 6'7" at 250 pounds is actually kind of slim. And when you consider that size, the speed, that's kind of a big deal. Now, I'm reading this on 24/7 Sports. Mayo is slotted as a 3-star on 24/7 Sports. Okay, so they're saying he's a 3-star. Others has him as a 4-star. Who knows? But I mean, my goodness, that type of ability and that size, and then having those types of schools come after him. I'm just telling you that there's something there with the guy. So that's a big pickup for us. We need to continue to be known as defensive line university. There's a lot of things that you can pick at Clemson about and go, well, they over the past few years now, once again, we have Garrett Riley. We have a running back room that even our third and fourth guy looks fantastic, especially Dominique Thomas. Nobody has forgot what Dominique Thomas did at spring ball. And I hope we utilize that. I mean, can you imagine rotating those four guys, Shipley, Maffa, Thomas, and Adams? Adams didn't have a bad spring game, folks. He looked pretty solid. There's in years past, Clemson would have killed to have Keith Adams Jr. playing running back for us. So that's just how good the running back room is. But I would just cycle those guys. But Clemson has a lot of good things going for it. I think the defense, even with the losses of Brisset, Murphy, Trenton, Simpson, is still going to look really good. I think that people are slightly overreacting overall with the wide receiver play, and that includes the tight end. All right. Jake Brennenstool cannot go out there and throw the ball to himself. We have to throw the ball. We have to design plays to get the ball to 6'6" Jake Brennenstool. You have to design those plays. He can catch the football. He'll go up and snag the ball out of the air. Don't waste his talent. Don't waste his eligibility. In fact, be kind and tell him to go to the portal, and somebody else will snag him up, and he'll go play for them, and he'll play lights out, and then suddenly we'll be like, man, why didn't he do it at Clemson? It's because, as he said during a practice last year, and probably got a good talking to, he said the quiet part out loud. The middle of the field's wide open. We're just not calling the plays there. And that's the truth. But Clemson still has Bo Collins, who, unless he is injured, has played his butt off from the time he's got to Clemson. Antonio Williams, true freshman out of Irmo, South Carolina, got him right out of Columbia, for all of you who really don't know where Irmo's located. Played his butt off. You have Jake Brennenstool. Yeah, everybody else has got to step up. That's a duh statement. It's time for Adam Randall to be the 5-star that everybody says that he is. I'm not knocking you, Adam. If you see this, I'm not talking trash about you. I'm challenging you. I want to see how great you are. Please blow our minds, dude. We want that. But we've got to stop hearing about it, and we have to see it. Get the ball to him, or stop talking about him. That's not fair to any of us, the fans or Adam Randall, if you're not going to get the ball to him. But Clemson, there's some people out there hoping that Clemson is not as good as they can be. They're hoping. The ACC hopes that. The SEC, the night that Clemson beat Alabama 44-16, the SEC and every host and every person who had ever thought they had played in the SEC. And then the SEC's favorite commentator, Paul Feinbaum. Paul almost grew hair that night. He was so sick. People were they were there in Pasadena, or not Pasadena, in the Bay Area there in San Francisco. People were about to go to the top of the stadium and start hopping off because they couldn't believe, and they hated every thought of it. Trevor Lawrence would have been the number 1 pick that night. There are people who hopes Clemson does not return to dominance. But with pickups like Darien Mayo here, a year out, Blake Hebert, this kid from Lawrence, Massachusetts, quarterback. He's a class of 2025 guy. He committed yesterday. I didn't get to do a video on that one. But you got a 6'3", over 200-pound kid out of Central Catholic. And he commits to Clemson yesterday. Once again, he may not sign. We might get IMG'd. But there was a time when these guys absolutely would not even consider Clemson. And I can remember the majority of those times. I remember when we got Daquan Bowers. I remember when we got CJ Spiller because we were not supposed to get those players, especially Spiller. Pause here and take a few looks up. Danny D. Rock Mahaffey. Hey, Brian, do you think the Gamecocks will hit the transgender portal? You mean they haven't already? I thought they'd. I mean, got to remember, bad coaching is what gave them their win last year. Southern Relic Adventures. What's up, man? I don't know if I've ever seen you in here, but thanks for everybody. Thanks for hopping in here. It's all subjective, but you do a great job. Thanks. I appreciate it. Grafnar, Spiller could score 2 touchdowns at once. Yeah, Grafnar, you're 100% right. I was there the night that he did that whole crazy run. So it was just a swing pass in out in the flats, behind the line of scrimmage, to Spiller against Georgia Tech in Death Valley. And he did 2 moves that I don't think that anybody in Death Valley had ever seen. Georgia Tech had definitely not seen it. And he scored an incredible touchdown. Parker Henderson, yeah, you were there too, my friend. You were there. You were there. I remember. Yes, Grafnar, they were in all purple. That was a great night. But see, we didn't get those guys. That's the reason why they were so, like, if you got them, like, if you got like a Vic, God, what's his name? He was a defensive lineman, 3-star of Atlanta. I want to say he was a 3-star out of Atlanta, but he was a 3-star. He ended up playing Atlanta. And we might get some 3-star players here and there, and we develop them and they go to the NFL. But Clemson didn't get the big wins against Ohio State and Michigan and Southern Cal. And when Miami wasn't trash. They didn't, when they went head-to-head with Florida State. Vic Beasley, thank you, Hard Take. You're right. I was thinking about Vic Burley, the new guy that we just recently signed. I see 30 people are in here. I hope you're hitting the thumbs up. If you hadn't subscribed, subscribe. It's free. It'd be different if I was like, hey, man, pay $10 a month. You get free cut. You get access to a bunch. I'm not doing that. I would love to one day and actually have people pay me $10 a month. This is, folks, for the 30 people who were on here, by the way, that's awesome for a channel my size. First, I want to tell everybody who's in here, thank you. I also want to say I'm going to put a star beside this. And I'm going to show this comment. This means that this is a big comment, a big compliment to me. And I'm going to tell you why. And if you're just watching this, you're like, hey, I came to hear about Darien Mayo. I'm leaving now. Please just hang for a second. Please, please, please just do this. Hang for a second. This is one of the best compliments I've received in a while. Because I love Clemson. I grew up right outside of Clemson. Born and raised there. Even with the great Dabo Swinney years, in percentage-wise of me remembering Clemson football, I've still had way more bad Clemson football than I have good Clemson football. All right, so I'm 40. I can remember. I sound like Mike Gundy. I'm 40. I'm a man. But Tiger Paul Craven's in here. What's up, Tiger Paul Craven? I need to have you on the show. Tiger Paul Craven and Jordan Bowman, they work with Mark Rogers. I need to have you and Jordan on the show. Hit me up after. Go to, yeah. And hit me up because I'd like to have you two on the show. But with that said, I love Clemson football, but at the same time, I'm not going to lie about Clemson football. That's just the truth. I'm going to tell the truth about Clemson football. Telling somebody a lie when it is going to be to their detriment, you really don't care about them. So up until this point, and I'm going to show this comment. Let me see. There's hard take. Hard take. I'm going to get back to you right here. This is the nicest thing. I like that you are, you're a realist. Thanks for not being over the top and stuck in the all-in stuff. Telling it like it is so refreshing. Thank you, Southern Relic Adventure. That's one of the best compliments that I've received recently. I'm not trying to get on here and just bash people to bash people. I'm not on here to talk trash about Dabo Swinney, because Dabo Swinney is the best thing that's ever happened to Clemson University. Hands down. Hands flipping down. I know people are going to mention other names and other people and other sports. Sorry. That's the truth. Although I appreciate Coach Swinney, I was beginning to wonder about him. I was beginning to wonder, and I think that Mark Rogers said this best, by the way. I had Mark Rogers on last week. I can't believe it. I had him on my show. Awesome. Go watch that video. It was a whole lot of him talking and me just sitting there listening and grinning like an idiot because I was happy Mark came on the show. But Mark said this, and this is how I was feeling. He said, Kirk Ferentz has been at Iowa for over 20 years. And he seems like a really nice guy. He seems to be a stand-up guy, but he's become complacent. And he said, I was concerned that Dabo Swinney at a higher level had become complacent. And then he made the move with Garrett Riley. He fired Brandon Streeter after a year. Folks, that's how you regain confidence. And I'm going to go down here to the hard take. Said, I had a channel and I went off on Dabo, and people wondered why I went silent. It's because Dabo did everything I wanted him to do. Boom. You're right, sir. That's right. Grafnar says, don't bear false witness, especially about the offense. Tiger Paul Craven said hit that lot button, y'all. Heck yeah, own it now. So, folks, we have Darian Mayo. He says, yes, I'm going to come play in Tigerville. Blake Hebert, I'm coming to play Clemson. TJ Moore, I'm going to come play at Clemson. Sammy Brown, I'm going to come play at Clemson. 30 minutes from the University of Georgia, I'm going to come play at Clemson. Wesco out of Texas. Could A&M or Texas come along and buy him if they wanted him? It's good to see you, my friend. I think they were talking to each other, but it's good to see all of you. Yes, they could decommit. Yes, they could go sign with Georgia. Yes, they could go sign with Texas. Fill in the blank, they could go sign with them. But they have committed to Clemson today, and that's what we have to hang our hat on. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant about our NIL situation, though. So for all the pessimists on here, it's like, hey, I came here to hear you talk about Darien Mayo. Let me talk about Darien Mayo for another 10 seconds. Darien Mayo, 6'7", 250-pound edge rusher out of Our Lady of Good Counsel up in Maryland. He picked Clemson. He's committed to Clemson over Ohio State, Southern Cal, and Michigan. He could decommit. He could IMG us. But why would he commit to us? Most of these guys are going to stay committed. Since we're not seeing since we're not recruiting, IMG players, I don't think we've been IMG'd since by anyone. If they said they were coming, they came. A lot of you are in here, and I want to ask you this. If I'm missing it, please call me out. Please call me out if I am wrong. Since that whole IMG debacle and we stopped recruiting IMG players that I know of, nothing has changed. Talked to Jason Priest a while ago, and that, from what I understand, I'll tell you how much IMG turned off Clemson. There was a guy that Clemson was recruiting within the state of South Carolina who was on their board. He transferred to IMG. They took him off. Am I right? Since Clemson stopped recruiting IMG players, they have not been IMG'd. Meaning a player said, yeah, I'm coming, and I'm not going to do it. Get right down the week before recruiting. That hasn't happened since. Someone said they're going to come to Clemson. They've came to Clemson. Peter Woods could have left. Peter Woods could have went anywhere. I saw that guy, and I was like, my goodness, he looks like a beast. Even among the players that we had on the field. The proof is in the pudding, as a very cheesy saying to say, but proof is in the pudding, folks, that people are latching on. Now, Hard Take throws this in there. I do think that the NIL is eating itself, and I'm going to get to NIL in just 1 second. I'm going to go through a couple of these comments here, and then we'll get back to Danny D. Rock Mahaffey. Hey, Brian, my dad and his three brothers all played there over an 11-year period. Uncle Rich scored the first point in Little. Now, that's really cool. My grandfather was a drum major back in the 40s. Good grief. Danny D. Rock Mahaffey is going way back. That's awesome. First point scored in Little John. He would have been an all-ACC player today, especially coming from Clemson because, well, I can't say that. Our basketball team was really good this past year, but you got to have a coach. You got to have a coach. No offense, Brownell. He's not with it anymore. Talk about complacent. There was a couple of times, I'm going to shut up after this about the basketball. Please don't log off, anybody. Just hang with me. There was a couple of times I saw Brownell standing over in his coaching box, he had his arms like this, and it was like he didn't realize that he had the ability to call a timeout and regroup the guys. It was almost like, man, they just put me over here, watch these guys, but I'm afraid I'll mess up something. No, dude, they're paying you to coach them. You had a really good team. You wasted a bunch of talent and eligibility. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the NIL. And the comment section here has a lot of thoughts on NIL. I'm just quickly going through them. You can see these as I'm putting them up on the screen. I saw where one coach, I think it was Brian Kelly from LSU. I think this is the dumbest idea I've heard so far. But Brian Kelly said something along the lines that we need to get the government involved. Pause. Pause. I don't want the government involved in anything. The government needs to worry about roads, bridges, stuff like that, and national defense. Every time the government gets their terrible paws into anything, I don't care if they have an R&D down beside their name. And by the way, I'm not trying to play down the middle of the road. I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be down the middle of the road guy. I'm just telling you the truth. They ruin everything. And also, college football is not important enough to get the government involved. The government should be involved with stuff like, how about we stop, I don't know, trying to send more money into various wars and blah, 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 blah. I know I just lost someone there. I'm just sorry. We've stopped giving money to people so they'll vote for you. I'm sorry. Jonathan Bennetton has a heck of a comment here. If you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years, there'd be a shortage of sand. Milton Friedman, you're 100% right. They can't do anything. Keep them out of this. But I said this in my interview with Mark Rogers. I said that the very group, the NCAA, who was fining players and suspending them and all of this bunch of stuff. I said fining, but the truth is they would suspend them. Suspending players like Johnny Manziel for that half of football because they knew that he had been paid for the autographs, but they couldn't prove it. But yeah, they suspended him for a first half for signing autographs and getting paid for it. Which between you, I could care less that he did that. Well, it was against the rules. It was a dumb rule. It was a dumb rule. I believe in following the rules. Okay, folks? I believe in following the rules. That was a dumb rule. I used to be a basketball official, and it would take them 5 years to get it through the leaders' skulls of the proper thing that needed to be done. And then when they did it, they would act like they had they had achieved some great feat. Oh man, we got our head out of our butt crack. You know, it's funny that you can think that once you take your head out from between your butt and get the hemorrhoids out of your ears, you can actually think. I don't want the government involved with anything. The NCAA controlled when people were being suspended, recruiting violations, and then they just open up the NIL and go, oh, I can't believe it's a mess. Dude, you should have regulated it more. You should have done your job. You should have used your brain. Now, to my Clemson fans, you're not going to like some of what I'm about to say. Once again, I am not saying this for shock factor. And by the way, I've got to go because we're eating dinner late tonight. I'm going to be grilling, blah, 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 blah. Long story. I love to grill. I've got a great Weber grill, 26-inch. Yes, 26-inch grill. You have to order it all. It's long. It was a gift. Wonderful people. My in-laws gave it to me for a graduation gift. So I love them. What's for dinner? Either burgers or grilled chicken. I haven't decided yet, but I have it downstairs. Okay, back on topic. Now I'm going to shut up and go. I've probably lost some people. Somebody's going to come into the comment section. I promise you. They're going to go in. Hey, I came here to hear about Darien Mayo, not about your dinner. Talk about that off air. I have a few people who does that. And some of them, I kind of think that they're doing that on purpose to kind of be funny. And then others, I just think they're idiots. This is not Yelp. I don't care what you think. I don't mean that in just being a jerk, but it's just like some people come on here like they're leaving a Yelp review. I mean, you know, I don't care. Go start your own YouTube channel. You can be as rigid and robotic as possible. Anyway. But the NIL is going nowhere. And we can talk about these players who they go and they get their $2 million deal. They stay out of school for a couple of years. They collect that $2 million deal, and then they go to another school. Maybe they're not as highly rated to go into the into the NFL draft, but other schools, kind of like Notre Dame went after Sam Hartman. I know Sam Hartman, he's a good quarterback, but I'm telling you right now, I think Notre Dame made a mistake in letting go of a guy who had a few years under his belt, a few more years under his belt to play football for them. And they took Sam Hartman, and he's going to be there 1 year, and then he's going to leave. I just don't buy into that. I could go into that more depth, but it would take up more time that I've already killed already. But the NIL is going nowhere. People will continue to dish out money to these players, and these players are going to come in, and somebody's going to win national championships. Alabama is playing the game. They've always played the game. Now they have a new deck of cards to play the game with. They're going to play it. Imagine that ability to pay players and have Nick Saban as your coach. Well, he's getting old. That doesn't look like he's doing too bad to me. Everybody hopes he does because they're tired of getting beat by him. Ohio State, Texas, Southern Cal. The money's coming in, y'all. And once this group of kids goes out the door, boys, men, whatever you want to call them, I had someone tell me, say, don't say boy, it sounds racist. It's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Well, you know from the old. No, I don't know. I was not born in the 1800s. I don't sit around and think of people lesser than myself. Maybe you need to stop. Maybe you need to stop living in such a world where everything has, a Klan robe hanging behind it. Go grow a brain, man. But off of that, these kids, these boys, these guys, whatever, there'll be a new group come in and they want to cash in because they're really good. Someone asks you, would you come to the unit? You're a Clemson fan, but they said, we'll pay you $2 million to go down to Columbia, South Carolina and be a Gamecock. But, no, I couldn't do it. No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that because you know what? You would strap on a Gamecock helmet and for $2 million, you would play for the Gamecocks. Why? Because I'll guarantee the money that you earn right now is not even remotely close to that. And you probably hate your job. So before you get all fanish on me and go, you're wrong. I would go play for the Gamecocks for $2 million. Hate every second of it. But every time I logged into my bank account, guess what? Guess what I'd see? $2 million. And then after my time is up, I go wash the nasty off of me and go buy a nice house. Somewhere probably in Charleston. Nothing bad. I'm on the good side of Charleston, not North Charleston. Stay away from North Charleston. You get your head blown off. But Clemson fans, you need to accept something. I'm sorry. I bantered. I've ranted. I've been trying to get better at this, but I didn't. Once again, somebody's going to say something to me in the comment section about this. But here's the bad part for us Clemson fans. Some of you are going to disagree with me. I know some of you in the comment section who I think the world of. You're going to disagree with me, but I'm going to tell you where money is involved. Where money is involved, it starts wars. It breaks up families. The number one, listen to me, the number one cause of divorce, still to this day, finances. Finances. We're not talking about where some gold digger goes and gets an NFL football player, gets pregnant, so the money has to keep going. But you need to accept something. You need to accept it. You need to forget about Clemson, the flag and this and all of this bunch of stuff and go Tigers. And we want real people who are in. You need to go back to the basics of life, that money pushes people. It envelops the way that they think. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that it doesn't affect me. Clemson's lackadaisical approach to the NIL. And I know I heard something about dear old Clemson signing Cade Klubnik to the deal and everything. I don't know all the details about it. I don't know anything, very little about dear old Clemson. I looked it up, couldn't really figure out too much about it. If you're familiar with it, or if someone from dear old Clemson has seen us, I am not talking bad about you. Honestly, after looking at your website, I know very little about your website. I know very little about what you're going to do, but I'm going to tell you this. And I'm going to make this very, very clear. If Clemson wants to continue to land good players, you can't tell me that if someone comes along to Bryant Wesco out in Texas and says, listen, we heard you're going to Clemson. Yeah, I'm going to Clemson. Well, I heard that you can sign with one of their little deals. Yeah, you might make $70,000 or $80,000, maybe $100,000. That's all right. But what happens if you stay in state and go to one of the Texas schools for $500,000? You just had a great, folks. You mean to tell me that you drink the Kool-Aid that much that you wouldn't even consider staying in Texas for $500,000, and they're doing it by the rules? I'm going to tell you this, and I say this with love. I say this with the respect for people who has subscribed to me and followed me for years. I am going to tell you that if you say no, you are full of it, or you're intoxicated to the point you're lying to yourself and to me and anybody else who will listen. Now, Tiger Paul Craven, I respect what you say. You said, I know Clemson has two collectives, and according to Jason Priester, they're well funded. Okay, if they're well funded, and they're willing to spend the money, great. But if they are imagine this. Imagine you're taking a girl out on a date, and you know somebody else is taking her out on another night. And you actually really care about her, and you want to put your best foot forward. But you say, you know, I really don't want her to know how much money I have. I get that. You know, you want her to be with you for the right reasons. But you say, you know, I tell you this, I'm going to take her to the Golden Corral. And then you have another guy who's a good guy as well. But he takes her to this really high-end restaurant. Who do you think she's going to spend time with? Well, yep. Put your finger down. Get off of your soapbox about ethics and blah, 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 blah. We need ethics, folks. We also need to use our brain. We need to use our brain. That is funny, hard take. That's hilarious. If Clemson is not coming out and honoring the guys who has made the commitment to them, hey, if you commit to us, we're going to commit to you. We're going to commit hard-earned cash. If you don't do that, guess what happens? You lose them. Well, we don't need them anyway. Really? Some of them, you're right, we don't need. But a lot of them, we need them. Or they'll be wearing an Alabama jersey, or they'll be wearing a Texas jersey, or they'll be wearing a Southern Cal jersey, or they'll be wearing an Ohio State jersey. And then all of us in little old Clemson, South Carolina, and the surrounding areas, guess what's going to happen? Man, well, we don't want that guy who's playing in the college football playoff tonight and is going to be selected number 5 overall in the draft. We don't need him. And then all of a sudden you have a whole list of people you don't need, but actually you do need them, and you had the money to pay them, but you didn't. Why? Because you were making up some fake ethical high road. They are giving us the ability to pay players. Stop with the high road thing. That's like driving 45 in a 55. Well, speed limit says you can run 55. Most of us going to run 5 to 10 over, but let's just say it's 55. You can run 55. Well, you know what? I'm a man of character. I'm going to drive 40. And because, listen to this, because I'm such a good person, I'm going to drive in the left lane. Because I want to make sure no one wrecks due to speeding. That sounds ethical. Everybody's asked what I'm drinking. I'm just drinking Zevia. This is nothing. Yeah, Zevia. Yeah. All right, folks, I've talked about a lot of crap tonight. And I appreciate everybody who's joined me, stuck with me through this entire time. I've got to go grill. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Clemson gets Darien Mayo. Blake Hebert. And hopefully we can land more. Folks, it's a big deal. Thank you for joining me. Post this in the forums. I want to get the word around. Thanks to everybody who's joined in here. If you hadn't subscribed, it's a subscribe. It's free. I know I say that all the time, but it'd be different once again if I was asking you for $10 a month or $1. So anyway, Tiger Paul Craven, hit me up because I'd like to have you and Jordan on the show, especially since you're doing the Clemson thing with Mark Rogers. So let me know. Everybody, thank you again. I look forward to talking to you. Also, check out week 6 of college football preview. I'm just going over FBSschedules.com, talking about the games that are coming up, the important games. It's really getting interested at week 6 because you've already had some really big games that's kind of telling the who's who of college football. So it's just kind of a 30,000-foot view overview, but I will be going over as we get closer to Clemson's and the start of the season. I will go over Clemson's schedule and talk about their opponents. By the way, that Duke game is not as easy as a lot of us thinks it's going to be. Not because Clemson's bad, it's because Duke is actually pretty doggone solid. I know. Tiger Paul Craven, you said Ricardo Jones is next. Hopefully we'll see that. Folks, you take care of yourself. Thanks for joining me tonight. It's always fun. Catch you next time.